Hey everybody, Nate Joma here with the Space Coast Real Estate Spotlight, and today we are joined by our friends from Wren Insurance Agency, Brandi Moore specifically. She's going to be answering some questions for us about insurance here on the Space Coast. So stay tuned and we will get right to it. All right. You excited, Brandi?
I love it. I feel like I just want to dance to that music coming in. It's like, yeah.
I know. I have some really great people on Fiverr that make cool graphics for me, so I'm very appreciative to them.
Well, I love it.
Shout out to you guys on Fiverr. I don't remember where you're at, but I don't believe it was Florida. But thank you so much. Everybody loves that. I do too. So,
Fun little jig.
Yes. Okay, so we're going to talk about something very exciting today, and that is insurance. It's one of the things everybody loves to talk about. I'm sure you get a lot of calls from people very interested and just taking up hours of time talking about insurance. So good questions, though, that we have for you today. I know, because I've had homeowners insurance now for almost my entire adult life. I bought our first home when we were young. And there's just so many nuances to insurance. Insurance isn't a very blanket type thing. There's a lot of different variables, a lot of different factors and things. So let's talk specifically today about homeowners insurance, which is also probably a broad term in and of itself, right? There's different policies and things like that.
Very much so.
Yeah. So curious, though, to talk about what is the difference in insurance policies if I'm buying a single family residence versus a condo versus, maybe a manufactured house? What are the differences in those different policies, and what should I be looking for as somebody that's going to be purchasing one of those types of properties?
So the easiest way to explain it is to say to go to property appraiser. So, in Florida, they've pretty much made the forms. They're very specific. There's the standard single family home form, which is going to be your normal homeowner's form that the majority of people are going to be looking for. Then there's your condo policy form. So the condo policy form is pretty much made to marry the association's form so that everything is going to either fall under the association's responsibility or the unit owner's responsibility. So those two tend to kind of, hold hands very well. And if there's things, the cool thing is there's endorsements that you can put on. So if there's things that you're not sure, or maybe you want to have extra coverage for, there's always options. Townhomes get fun. So townhomes, I feel like it really depends on the association. Some of them like to get a little bit more creative, and they like to run it like more of like a condo association. Then there's some that just want the client to do everything, and they're going to be written as a single family home policy. So it really, for those ones, it's going to depend on how the association, likes their form or how they have it filed with the state. So yeah, it gets very fun. And, when all else fails, I always tell the clients, just ask for your bylaws. What do the bylaws say? You can get those from your representative, so they can request those right away. So you'll know, are my windows covered? Or, whose responsibility is it for the shutters? There's a lot of things like that in there that are just good for you to know as a homeowner. But especially to know which form that your policy needs to go on.
Okay. So when I'm looking at purchasing a condo, as an example, I'm not responsible for maintaining the entire condo. I have one unit. So we have different types of policies for condos specifically that just handle, I think it's called an HO6, just the interior walls versus the exterior walls and the entire building, right?
Exactly. So easiest way to explain it would be drywall in. So anything drywall in is typically going to be under your HO6 policy. anything drywall out will typically be covered by the association's policy.
So if there's a claim against the master policy, does that impact my individual policy with, say,
No.
Wren for the inside? It doesn't.
Nope, that's something we actually have to explain often to clients. They don't always know that, oh, my neighbor, maybe it's on top of them or beside them, has some sort of leak too. And sometimes it's the association's responsibility, and they'll come in. But if there's any damage to your unit regarding, water loss, whatever the case is, you're still going to have to file a claim on your individual policy. So if there's damage, you're still going to be responsible for it, even if it was because of your neighbor. So,
Okay.
so that's always fun to try to explain that to people because it's something
Yeah.
people don't realize. But again, they're made to marry. So they're made so that everybody can pretty much be made whole again. And associations are just those weird ones that
Yeah.
you find those little things that, people don't normally ask or don't think to ask until it happens. So it's always good to know how form works for sure.
Yes, definitely, definitely. So I wanna attack a little bit of an elephant in the room, if you will. And a lot of people have talked about this. I'm sure you understand that this is a hot topic, if you will. But
Mhm.
insurance costs, insurance rates over the past couple of years have seemed to have gone up quite a bit. What are the drivers behind that?
Yeah. So first of all, I don't have fangs. I don't think I have horns. They're hidden very well. Um, so your agent does not make the rates. Like I wish I could help a lot of people if I could. But there's so many driving factors into it. Just talk to your agent. We're aware of what's going on in the industry, and we like to try to explain that to clients one-on-one all the time. So several of the driving factors are, one, just the sheer amount of new builds in the area, new people in the area. That's one factor that people don't always think of. Same as auto and home. So both of those are definitely being affected right now. Another one would be all the claims. There's been so many, hailstorms. We've never seen hail like this in Florida. I
Right.
mean, I lived here my whole life. I don't know how long you've lived here, but I mean, we've had two crazy storms in the past, 4 years? That's unheard of.
Yeah.
So that alone, on top of the normal hurricanes and tropical storms that we have definitely driven up the price. And then you have on top of that the roofers that are coming around and
Mm.
knocking on your door. And yes, there's definitely times when that warrants a new roof, but not always the case. And then sometimes the roofers are coming in and maybe you don't have, all of the damage that they're saying that you have. And they're going, all right, let's just file a lawsuit and let's get this into litigation. So whereas a normal roof may cost 20 to 23, 25, depending on the square footage of your house, they're filing with the insurance companies for $60,000 and they're paying costs. So they're going to recoup that loss. Insurance companies are companies, but they're businesses that need to make money and you got to get that back. So, I mean, those are definitely some driving factors. COVID did not make it any better. I know everybody hates using that now, but
Yeah.
the cost to build, it's just kind of skyrocketed. I mean, shoot, I remember, I want to say it was last year, maybe the beginning of last year or the year before, where it was like, what, $7, $10 for like a 2x4 or something crazy like that.
I remember that. Yeah.
I was like, what in the world is going on? So there's just been so many little things like that have gone into place. And thankfully, the state has been stepping in and has been helping out. We're just now starting to see the pretty much things even out a little bit. I'm not gonna go crazy and have people coming at me guns blazing, but we're seeing renewals that are coming in that are actually decreasing. So it's happening. It's
Good.
happening. Not all of the companies, but they're stabling out. And I know it gets frustrating for clients too when there's only 5 companies that are writing and there's 40 companies in the state of Florida. So we're slowly seeing that number open up, which is going to help the rates, among several other factors. So it's been a fun couple years in
Yeah,
insurance, at
for
least.
sure. For sure. So all of those drivers aside, what type of things dictate what my rate is? Like I know that if I live in a community that has similar homes, I can't expect my rate, my premium to be the same as somebody that has a similar home to
Mhm.
mine. What are some things that would cause my rate to either be less or to be more than somebody in my community that has a similar build?
Of course. So that happens all the time. I can give you a prime example of my house. Again, don't come at me guns blazing. I bought my house. It was a 1980, or sorry, 1978, I believe is the house. So it's a little older. And when we got the policy, we just got it at the right time. And, it was under $2,000. Now that's unheard of. So anything now, we're not able to even get new build houses for that amount. So, mine's renewed and it hasn't gone up too terribly much. Whereas my neighbor across the street was like, hey, or she knew I was in insurance. We had small talk. I'm, purchasing this house, like help me look for a policy. I could not find her anything under like $8,000. So, I mean, that's one good example. I think her house was 2 years newer than mine, even. So it all depends on the timing. So, when you're buying your home, what the market looks like at that time, what companies are available, um, you know, where the limitations are as far as, maybe there are only three companies that are writing, but they only want, new roofs and new plumbing. And so there's so many different, it's so hard to go, here's my neighbor's policy. Can you match it?
Right.
There's just a lot of other things that go into it as much as we would love to.
What about with some of the newer houses, houses that are, say, built in the last even 5 to 10 years? Are there going to be huge differences as well and similar builds in similar communities for what the insurance might cost?
Yeah, so companies, I always like to tell people to shop their insurance every 5 years. It's good. Companies change what they want. Right now, I could probably rattle off two or three companies that just like new builds. That's what they do. That's what their, overall structure and um, the telematics are kind of like geared towards. Like, this is what we like. That might not be the same next year. So you're going to get the better credits. You're not going to need all the inspections up front. So there's definitely benefits in insurance to having a brand new house. But then you're going to get companies that actually don't want brand new builds because maybe the cost for that policy doesn't make sense in their analytics. So maybe they're going, oh, I can, write this policy for $1,000, but the value is $400,000 to rebuild. It doesn't make sense with where we are and what we're looking for as a company. So definitely benefits, but yeah, it's fun.
Yeah, I hear that. So, if I am looking to shop my insurance every 5 years or so, is it best to go back to the carrier to get them to give me an update, or would I go to an insurance agent? What does that look like, and what's the best course of action to do that?
So I am a firm believer of independent agencies, not just because I work in one, but there's just so much more flexibility with being independent. So we specifically at Wren have pretty much every company that you can rate with in Florida, we can work with them. So the benefit to going to your agent would be this is what's going on and with my house, maybe you got a new roof, maybe you have an older roof, you can explain what, you know, financial obligations you have going on right now. So maybe you can kind of fit a policy a little bit more towards your needs. Maybe you are a little bit more coverage savvy. Maybe you're not as coverage savvy because you just came into some money. So just being able to sit down with your agent, tell them this is what's going on. We can explain the market, we can get your needs, we can figure out something together that makes sense that way. And you'll know that what coverage you're getting because it's something that you guys are choosing together. So that's always a beneficial thing. Whereas, going to a standalone company is not a bad thing. There's a lot of great policies that that they have and options that they offer. But typically there's only one or two options if they're writing. So that kind of limits you a little bit more rather than being able to kind of, talk through it and look at all the companies. So.
All right. So if I get set up through Wren with any particular carrier, we'll just say Citizens, because I know that I have seen a lot of Citizens policies just in general. Is there a way for me a year or two down the road, if I don't want to renew with Citizens, to come back to you and say, hey, I want a different carrier now, or I want to get a different rate? Can I do it more often than every 5 years, I guess, is my question.
Of course. Yeah. So you can rewrite a policy tomorrow that you wrote today. So there's always that positive side, especially when you're purchasing your home in the crazy chaotic market that we have right now. Maybe, the rates aren't great and Citizens is the only option, and maybe you don't want Citizens. So maybe you want to go to one of your standard, your Frontlines, your American Integrities, your Florida Peninsulas, or something like that. Because you've heard there are these great companies, but they're just not writing your house. Mm-hmm. So you can always get with your agent and let them know, like, hey, I'm really interested in this company. When they open back up, let me know. So yeah, you can do that at any point. And I always like to tell people, again, like, out of hurricane season is best. So personally, I purchased my home in September and we wrote it again in May. So it was right out of hurricane season. Typically the market is a little bit better too out of hurricane season. So there's some advantages depending on like the timing and the quarter. Again, if you're in hurricane season, company's probably going to have a little bit more underwriting guidelines going on, especially if they see a storm coming, they might close. So there's, again, so many opportunities out there to contact your agent and let them know, this is what I was given. I want to have a chance to look at something else.
Makes sense. So as a person that has a mortgage, if I change my insurance company and my insurance is escrowed, how do I update the mortgage company that I've changed to a different insurance carrier or a different agent or whatever the case might be?
Yeah, so we work with you as best as we can. Mortgage companies will typically talk to the agent. Sometimes they don't want to talk to us, and sometimes they want to talk to the owner directly, which is okay. Typically, what I'll advise the client to do is just once you get that refund check, you'll get a prorated refund check. It's always going to be issued to you personally. They don't want to deal with having to send it to the mortgage companies, and that's just a whole nother animal in itself. Mm-hmm. So yeah, just get that check. When you get it in the mail, call up your mortgage and say, hey, I have this refund check. You can apply that back into your escrow. If it's negative, you can talk to them about possibly pocketing some of the difference of the money. But yeah, I always just say call your lender, see what options they have for you. Typically, it's just as easy as endorsing that check right over, sending that with your next statement, and then they'll do an escrow analysis from there.
All right. I like that. What are some things that I can do to try to get discounts or lower premiums on my house? What are some quick tips or some tricks of the trade, if you will, that would help me get the best possible premium in my house?
Best thing to do is your wind mitigation. So go look at your wind mitigation if you have a current one. Right now, we're in Florida. Hurricane's a big one. So what everybody's always looking at, how your roof is attached is a big one, on top of, if you have hurricane rated openings. So your shutters, your garage doors, maybe you have an exterior door, maybe you have a skylight. A lot of people don't realize that those are also exterior openings as well. And then you can also talk to your contractor or whoever does your wind mitigation inspection, because there's things that I'm still learning as an agent that maybe I didn't realize coming into insurance. Like I had an inspector tell me one time that this lady didn't have a skylight, and she was, going back and forth with him about what all she needed. And he sat down with her. He showed her all of her openings. This is what you need. This is what you need. This is what you need. And he told her, Like, if you don't have all of your openings protected, like, and you're putting shutters on at the time or the time of a hurricane, it's like a pressure valve. That roof's going to pop right off. And I just never realized that. So I always tell people, like, make sure you have everything on. Like, it's super important. Because again, I'm still learning with everything that's going on too. But that's a huge one, especially if you are beachside. So any houses that are beachside, you'll see that premium drop like $2,000 sometimes. So
Oh, wow.
you can have a significant reduction in premium pending how you are in the wind pool, how close you are to the nearest body of water. Those are all pretty big factors. Other things you can look at are like a monitored fire or burglar alarm. People don't realize when they put those ones in, call your agent. They have certificates that they can provide. If you're in a gated community, most of the time that's done up front, but sometimes gates are put in afterwards. So that's something that can help you as well that we like to look at.
Okay. Yeah, those are some great tips. So you mentioned wind mitigation. That's usually done by a certified home inspector. How often should I get an updated wind mitigation? Is that something that I should be doing on the regular if I'm looking at renewal, or will one last me as long as there's been no changes?
Yeah, so one will last you 5 years.
Okay.
The only time you would need to get an updated one from there is if you're truly looking at rewriting your policy and it's maybe expired, or if you do some sort of update on your house. So if you do decide, yep, I'm going to have all of my openings protected, I'm going to get shutters, a new garage door, that might be something that you would want to look at. I would say call your agent first because we can look at if you have anything else on file. Maybe you got all of your windows covered, but your door wasn't marked. Your exterior door, your garage door. That's something we can go, hey, whoa, save your money. Like check those first and then get the wind mitigation. So that's mainly the reason you're typically not doing anything on your roof as far as straps or nailing midterm. But if you do, that would be another option or a reason that you would want to get a new one.
Okay. That sounds good. It sounds like there's a ton of moving pieces with insurance, and I don't know a heck of a lot about it, but I have a little bit more exposure than the average person, maybe being in the mortgage business. I talk to a lot of insurance companies, a lot of insurance agents. I deal with a lot of different home ages and different types of things.
Mhm.
So if somebody has questions about their policy or they're thinking about buying and they want to get some questions answered, is it advised that they just reach out to you and give you some information and you can kind of help guide them and maybe give them a quote?
100%. I mean, there's things that people will see on TV all the time. There's things that you'll see in, Facebook groups and stuff that you want to find out if it's actually true or not. Go to the horse's mouth. Ask your agent what's going on. If for whatever reason they don't know what's going on, they're going to find out for you because now they definitely want to know what's going on. So we stay informed the best we can. But again, sometimes there's things that, just chatter brings up or questions that come up in that. And it's always good to go to your agent and go, hey, what's going on? Is this true? Can I do this to help out my policy? So yeah, definitely we welcome all the questions. We welcome all the things.
Awesome. So if somebody wanted to reach out to you to discuss insurance or ask questions or revisit a quote maybe that they had gotten to buy a house and maybe they want to reshop that, what's the best way for them to get in touch with you?
Give us a call. So you can call us anytime, or you can email if you have a agent specifically. If you're a Wren client, then you can give us a call. And then we have 6 different account managers that are always available. So if your specific account manager is not available, we want someone to help you. So we're always here and definitely more than willing to help out.
Awesome. All right, Brandi. So I ask every guest on the show this question, and it's a tough question, but what is one thing, if you had to narrow it down to just one thing that you love about working and living here on the Space Coast?
Oh, that's a hard one. She
I
should have
know.
prepped me for that. I
I
mean,
know.
It's going to sound cheesy and very cliche to say the beach, but honestly, I could not imagine living in a place that didn't have a beach within like 10 minutes. Just outdoor living in general is amazing. My daughter plays comp soccer, so we're outside all the time, and we're either at the beach or the ball field, one or the other. So
Nice.
I love the
Yes.
Florida weather, except for
That's
when it's cold.
definitely a popular answer. Everybody loves the weather. That's one of the
Yep.
reasons why the Space Coast is so popular. People come here to visit, they fall in love, they buy a house. I love it because I'm in the business of helping people buy houses here on the Space Coast, so it works out. But yeah,
I'm a little
definitely.
biased to our beaches too. I think they're pretty cool compared to some of the other beaches.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. For sure. Well, I really appreciate you taking some time this afternoon to chat with me, to teach us about some insurance tips and tactics and some ways that we can improve our insurance overall. It's been great, and I hope to have you back on again soon.
Of course, always happy to help. Thanks for having me.
All right, awesome. Thanks, Brandi.
Bye.